At least 150 people have been shot in Minneapolis and St. Paul this year. That's more than one person a day. Last year, that number climbed to 793 in just the Twin Cities. Each person hit by that gunfire faces some sort of recovery, and they're not alone. Their loved ones also endure the trauma. So what is the cost of gunfire to a community? It costs roughly $22,000 to treat a patient with a gunshot wound at Hennepin Healthcare. In 2021, they treated 142 people. Last year, it was 120. But those are just numbers. As Jennifer Mayerly shares, behind every bullet is a real person who knows firsthand the true cost of gunfire.
Xavian Brown says he went down the only road he knew to follow. Today, he's living with his choices.
Only being 22 and been shot 11 times, it's more of a lot of gut decisions that got me here.
Xavian is in a wheelchair, a T7 paraplegic, after taking that 11th bullet at the end of 2020.
He only shot once. Close range, dropped the clip, picked it up, and ran off.
He thinks he was targeted. What age did you join a gang?
I was at 6, 7 when I joined.
He says he wanted to be independent, and without a father figure, he turned to the streets. What was that life like?
Stressful. Every day having to look over your shoulder or having to worry about going to jail and not having enough money to bail out.
The first time he was shot, he was only 13 or 14.
I say right before I had my daughter in 2014.
What happened, or where were you shot?
I was shot in the leg with a 12-gauge shotgun. That was the very first one that I got shot with. Back then, was looking for money to try to come up and was car shopping and ripping and running the streets, stealing cars, like just doing dumb stuff. And karma caught up to me very quick that day.
He says he was shot several more times over the course of about 2 years.
I was like a target practice. Like 2 years straight, I was back and forth in the hospital from getting shot left and right. The recovery was just like, I couldn't even get the opportunity to recover. Kept on getting shot. What
toll must that have taken on not just your body, but your mind and your well-being and everything else?
The toll, I'm surprised I could sit here and smile right now. Like, at moments I do be wanting to like just give up, but I know that there's something out there for me.
That something for Xavian is his family, who haven't left his side. His then girlfriend, now fiance, and his mom, Maine.
If you love him and you care about that person, you're gonna feel something, and that's gonna change something in your head and in your heart last picture him actually standing with his legs. Me and him took together. He feels so bad, but I mean, your life choices came up on your mama, your sister, and your grandma, the ones that was there for you all the time immediate. Now we gotta pay for you being shot, and that hurt you. I know it do. This is a good one that I like too.
But Xavian isn't the only one hurting. The reality is, it's painful for everyone.
The person that got shot be like, well, I'm the one that got shot. Y'all ain't gotta deal with this. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We had to deal with his mood swings. We had to deal with him sometimes just snapping out the blue, like, and we just had to accept it because he dealing with something.
Add a bit more energy.
Maine tries to focus on how she can help her son. At times when she lets her mind think about what's happened, it can get pretty dark.
And it's like somebody dying. It never heals. So I'm not gonna ever say it's okay or I'm fine or it don't hurt no more. He may not be dead, but it's a totally different life than what he had. And it hurts, and it's different.
I think about people whose bodies and their minds are never the same.
Pastor Edrin Williams' Sanctuary Covenant Church is across the street from the Winter gas station where Xavian was shot. The community calls the spot at Broadway and Lyndale in North Minneapolis Murder Station.
I see regularly young men up and down the street here, many of them with the colostomy bag or young guys who should be out running around playing sports, like pushing one of their friends in a wheelchair, and you just wonder about how their quality of life is impacted forever. that kind of cost.
And I feel a real burden these days, Sanctuary.
Williams incorporates the reality of living in the city into his Sunday sermons.
In a world where raising our kids seems harder by the week, I thank God for his spirit.
While trying to cast a light on a hopeful future.
So that we might be built up to live the lives that God has called us to.
And says the church shows up for families in the wake of gun violence.
Checking in on moms who've lost sons. We're providing diapers to adults who can't go to the bathroom on their own anymore. We're financially supporting families who can't make ends meet because someone who's a breadwinner is their life has been impacted. That's a regular thing for us.
He sees the pain, witnesses the struggle, and wonders, with all the gun violence, if people take time to really heal.
If we don't heal, we'll continue to hurt one another.
People are carrying them with them.
Hermita McGlory counsels individuals and families impacted by gunfire about a mile away from the church at North Point.
It costs the lives of people, but the livelihoods of people.
Those triggered by the sound of gunfire, someone who's lost a loved one to gun violence. She also works with people who have been shot.
We talk about living life again and making moves and trying to restore, reframe, and redirect your life. It's deep work. We have to probe. We have to begin to understand how we are patient with the stories and the narratives of these people.
She works with people to get uncomfortable, to dig deep and try to heal.
What were some of their childhood trauma experiences? Why do we have to do problem solving with guns? Then we begin to have people understand that although they have been a victim of this level of violence, they don't necessarily have to continue to let this direct the rest of their lives.
Do you worry about the people that don't get help after experiencing gun violence?
Most
and what
definitely,
could happen?
most definitely, because it is the level of overwhelming emotional experience that is tragic, it's traumatic. It's not only anxiety provoking and provokes depression, but it can alter just the rest of the life of a person.
Xavian lives in constant pain. He deals with leg spasms, fights depression, and is reminded daily of the last bullet that pierced his arm.
Frustrated. This pain is like something that's so unbelievable. Like, it keeps you up at night. Like, even if you've been up for a week, this pain will keep you awake. It won't let you get a wink. It just reminds me more and more, and I try to forget it, but that's one thing that my body's not gonna let me do, is forget that. Sometimes I just leave him because I get tired of playing with him.
He knows he could benefit from therapy, but says it's not his focus right now.
What for you is a good day?
That first breath in the morning, to know I accomplished at least a couple of my goals, making sure that I eat at least twice a day, that's a good day for me.
In Minneapolis, Jennifer Merrily, WCCO News.
Xavian does want what's happened in his life to help others. He hopes other young people will see joining a gang is not worth it. There are places to turn to as well. We've compiled a list of some resources for survivors and families. You can look for this story on WCCO.com.